Well, hello there. It's Friday. Woo! I am so happy that you made it, and I hope that you're having a good day today. If you're not, I'm sorry. Hopefully it'll get better for you. As mentioned on Monday, our book today is The Collapsing Empire by John Scalzi. Now, have you read that book? If you did, please leave me some stuff down there in that comment area. I'd love to know what your thoughts and feelings about the book were, if you enjoyed it, if you thought maybe things were over the top, or if it was just right. And the best way to describe the book is overall, top down. Like I mentioned Monday, there's a lot of moving parts in this book, and those moving parts, it's not confusing. Biggest thing is the flow inside of this book. See what I did there? Yeah. The flow is explained. Faster than light travel between star systems just wouldn't be possible, because in the book there would be an exponential amount of energy that you would have to expend to get up to it, and its increase in the amount of energy you would have to spend to be able to do it just isn't worth the time, efforts, or trouble. But there was this accidental discovery, kind of, about the flow. It's described as a river, and since we're kind of 2D creatures living in a 3D world, our brains can't really process what it really is. Now, I don't like it when authors do that kind of a thing, because the human mind can do some incredibly awesome things. But to also give John Scalzi a little bit of credit here, the reason why he says that most people couldn't really comprehend what it is because of the amount of math it would take to describe it. Even those people that could use that math probably would fail in describing it, which makes sense, because a lot of the times when somebody is able to describe dimensions and bodies in space, they don't really communicate well to humans. They're human, of course, I'm not saying they're not, but sometimes people are so intelligent that other people just can't understand what those people are talking about. They're experts in their fields, moving on along. The flow is the primary thing in the book. It's the most important thing. Whenever the book opens up, we've got several stories happening at the same time, and they all kind of finally come together. We've got these houses that I mentioned previously on Monday. The houses are like shipping guilds and manufacturing guilds. Those are like mega corporations. They're always trying to better themselves or take the other guy down or whatever, but that's just business. The more interesting parts to me about the book had to do with the emperor. Whenever he passed, his daughter that ended up getting the role of the emperor, she didn't want it and he didn't want to give it to her. He knew that bad things were coming. And we find out more and more about that and the way and the reasoning why the stories were intertwined in the way they were. There was a scientist that the older emperor had employed that lived on End. He was a flow physicist. His job was to find out what was going on with the flow, do the calculations on it, and investigate it, and try to understand it in the best way possible. His conclusion was that the flow was going to stop. It was going to close. There's these things, entry points and exit points, that are in the flow, and usually they're by a gravitational body. This scientist finds that all those are going to be closing soon. Now, there was somebody that did some sloppy math before him that thought that it was just going to shift. Everything was going to go to the planet End, which is where this scientist that was being paid by the emperor was. He gets his son to take all this information, because his son has been working with him, back to the emperor to let him know this is what's happening. There's one problem with humanity. At this point, End is the only planet among all the systems that are inhabited that the planet isn't just like a self-containing satellite. So it's the only open air world. Earth has been lost. Its entry and exit points had disappeared. There's other instances of that happening. So there's like things in the book that seem to back up what's going to happen according to the scientist. So we've got that part of the story, right? Let's take that and set that over here. Now, on the same planet of End, there's already there's a problem, a food shortage issue. Kiva Lagros. She shows up at this planet that's having problems. One of the main reasons why that planet's having problems is because the crop that her house makes, which is a food that everybody needs to survive on, is contaminated genetically and has killed all the other crops, and now everything's in upheaval. The Duke that's of that planet wants to blame her for what's happened and her family. She just doesn't see it that way. This is the one that I was talking about, where she is kind of a main character. She has her own thoughts and desires, and she doesn't care a thing about what anybody else thinks about it. That's one of the reasons why I loved her so much. And in this part of the book, she ends up trying to smuggle, well, not trying, she successfully smuggles a whole lot of rich dummies off of this planet to get them back to Hub, which Hub is the main world where the Emperor and his successor, the new Emperor, Cardinia, lives. So while she's there, there's all kinds of things that's happening. There's the old Duke, there's the new person that's going to be stepping in, plus this one individual, which is the son of a person that needs to be out. And they give him an assumed name and all that kind of thing. It's very interesting interesting her entire story while she's there. And then whenever they get back to Hub, oh, things don't go any better for her at all. It's just one catastrophe after another. For instance, whenever they land, not Kiva, but Cardinia, the Emperor, she is going kind of on a loose date. The lead suitor from the house of Nohama-Peten. That was the same house that was inciting riots and such on... Anyway, point of it all is, while she's going on this loose date, there's dialogue between her and him expressing that he knows that things are going to change with the flow, but he's wrong. His whole house thinks that the flow is going to move to end. End will become the new hub world. That's not really the case at all. It's going to all close. They've already turned their backs on the people that live in their own system. They knew that it was going to close the show to get here or there to where all their people and their planet is, which is unfortunate. If that holds true, if this flow does close completely, then humanity's last chance is actually on end, ironically enough. While she's there with him, there's a loud crash from Kiva's ship. There's a shuttle that was being piloted to drop people off, and then on its return, it crashes into this new huge ship that belongs to the house of Nohama-Peten, which indeed kills that suitor of the Emperor's. Things had almost immediately changed as well. Forever, they had wanted to be married into the Wu's family, which Cardinia, her last name is Wu. So because of that, she knew there was something drastic that was changing. What it is apparently the house Nohama-Peten has plans on making End into the new hub. We have all these other moving things in the background, let's not forget about. I'm not going to really get into a whole lot of that because I want to encourage you to read this. The second book is just a quarter as good as the first one. We're in for a ride and it should be quite a bit of fun. Now, I have kind of given you a big portion of the story. Don't let that detract from reading it. It is in those interactions and the action, things that are happening, that makes this such a spectacular story. And one of the reasons why I enjoyed reading it so very much. Now, the gentleman that I mentioned that was from End, Mars, I don't think I gave you his name earlier. He was the son of the scientist that was researching things. Whenever he and the Emperor meets, there's some interesting interactions there. By the end of the book, really, it's kind of left up to him and her on what happens with humanity. Do they try to get everybody to end? Do they just not do anything? Or do they themselves go and leave them behind? I don't know. You'll have to read it to find out. It's the overall top-down view of the book that makes it just so good. Would I recommend it? Is it worth your time, efforts, and energies, and money, most importantly? I do believe so. The reason, again, has to do with that dialogue, the action of the book, and the worlds that have been created by John Scalzi and the way they all come together. It seems like he's creating this masterful, huge universe again just to blow it up or destroy it. And that would be kind of something he would do if we are honest with each other, right? I hope you enjoyed today's video. I know I did. I hope you enjoyed the book. If you did, let me know. If you didn't, let me know. Like, share, subscribe. This is Shane with Shane's Books and Review. Again, today's book was The Collapsing Empire, wrote by John Scalzi. I will see you on Monday.